All for Peace, an original story by Musical Cat, Chapter 3, An Encounter. After what feels like hours, I finally stop running. Once I catch my breath, I look up at this amazing grassland. Ahead of me, there is this beautiful waterfall flowing off the top of a towering grassy mountain with a large lake at the bottom. It's absolutely stunning. I've never been outside of the woods before. After about 10 minutes of admiring the landscape around me for the first time, I realize I'm starving. Makes sense since I just ran for a long time. I walk over to a nearby tree and pull a branch off of it. Then I walk over to the base of the lake. Yay! I comment to myself when I see there are fish swimming in the lake. I bend down and grab a stone from the edge of the vast lake, and then I start to scrape it along one of the edges of the stick. After a minute or two, the edge was sharp enough to use to hunt the fish. Now, all I need to do is just stand in a focused silence while I wait for one to swim by. After a minute, I get the opportunity and I quickly strike a large green fish. Yes, I got it on my first try, I say to myself excitedly. I spend the next few minutes making a fire, and once it's made, I cook the fish into a delicious meal. See, Claudia, I can take care of myself, I say to myself as I eat my snack. After a while, I put out the fire, then put my large black hood up over my head to block my eyes from the sun, and then I lay down for a nap. I wake up a while later from someone shaking my shoulder. What do you want? I ask, half awake. Sorry for asking, but where did you find that book? An unfamiliar male voice responds nervously. I stood up quickly, and my hood falls down. My friend fell. I'm caught off guard because the boy screams. You're an elf, the boy responds in disbelief and surprise. After he says that, I realize he's a human and I stand up. And you're a human! He looks to be about my age and has short black hair along with brown eyes. He's wearing a light gray tank top with a white sweater-like t-shirt underneath it. He's wearing pants that are long and black. His shoes are light and dark gray. Yes, I am, the boy says proudly. But seriously, this is so surreal. I never thought I'd meet an elf one day. I thought you were just in stories. He says excitedly, Wait, you didn't know about the war that happened 3,000 years ago? What war? He asks confusingly. 3,000 years ago, there was this big war between all of the species in the world. It only ended because a forest elf stood up when everyone was on the brink of extinction. He suggested that we flee to different regions, live separately, and not come in contact with each other ever again to avoid preventing another war. Everyone agreed with him, seeing as it was a way to survive. I explained to him, Yeah, none of that rings a bell, but it sounds awful. It sounds like my ancestors decided to pretend it never happened and say you guys aren't real. But it makes sense. A lot of humans aren't the nicest of people, he says in a sad tone. Nicest of beings, he adds on quickly. I giggle. I know what people means, I say as I sit down by the water. I pat my hand next to me for him to come and sit down. You do? He says as he sits next to me. Yep. I have spent the last 10 years of my life learning about humans and other species to the best of my ability. Speaking of which, I hold up the book Mr. Leafdrop gave me. You were asking about this book? Oh yeah, I totally forgot about it. I think that book is my history textbook, which I lost last night while I was studying in the woods. Before I left, I spent a while walking around, exploring the woods, and taking in the nature around me. As I was walking back home, I realized I dropped my textbook somewhere. I decided to come back in the morning to look for it, seeing as it was dark at the time. I have spent all morning looking for it, and just as I was about to give up and accept my fate of my teacher yelling at me, I saw you laying down over there. So I walked over and asked if you had seen it, and you somehow have it. I giggle. You're funny. One of my friends takes a morning stroll daily, and he found it this morning. I'm one of the only elves who has any interest in humans, so he gave it to me. I suppose I should give this back to you so you don't get in trouble with your teacher, I say as I hand him the book and wink. I swear I see him blush for just a second. Oh, thank you, he says as he grabs the book. You are so different than the stories describe you as. Oh? How did the stories describe us elves as? I say as I punch him jokingly and laugh. A smirk crosses his face. They describe elves as angry, cruel creatures who kill just for fun. I laugh so hard it takes me a minute to catch my breath to speak. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Most elves can't even harm a fly. The cruelest the elf can get is when they are trying to discourage my research on all the creatures in the world. Why would they discourage you from trying to educate yourself? If it was just to learn, it'd be one thing, and they'd probably not mind as much. It's what I want to do with information. I pause for a minute. And what's that? Why are you being so mysterious? I hesitate to answer. Oh, the reason why I've dedicated so much of my life to learn as much as possible about the world is because my dream is to one day unite the world in peace. I stand up and start to pace. I don't want everyone to need to hide anymore in their own regions, and some regions don't even know the others exist. For example, you didn't even know the elves were real, and you didn't even have the correct depiction of us. The boy stands up. That sounds amazing. Why do other elves not want that? I honestly don't really know. They keep saying it's too dangerous, or it will only end in war. They don't even want to give it a chance. The idea of more freedom doesn't even appeal to them. My family and I have butted heads on this for years. I have even lost my best friends over it. As to the reason why I'm out here in the first place, I had a big argument with my so-called friends about this and told them that if they didn't want to support me, to leave me alone. Then I just ran far away from them until somehow I made it out here. I cross my arms and turn away from the boy. The boy grabs my shoulder and says, I'm sorry that happened to you, but look at us right now. We are getting along just fine. I turn my head to look at him, and he's smiling. I have an idea, but you may think it's crazy.